I'm John Dennis. I'm running against Nancy Pelosi.
We have the most beautiful state and one of the most beautiful places in the world, and people are leaving.
I'm gonna catch you when all the cameras aren't around, and I'm gonna you up. I'm tired.
He's the chairman of the San Francisco GOP, and he's running against House Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
Step back, everyone.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the John Dennis Report. Thanks for joining us today. Yeah, wild day, huh? Lot going on here, and we're hitting the ground running. I just got a call this morning. I'm going to be on Newsmax next week. I'll give you an update on that. It looks like a week from today, and should be an interesting discussion. Keep you posted on that, and. Yeah, so I'm going to kind of move the order around a little bit and talk about let's start with the LeBron James tweet. And I have to tell you, I wasn't really even going to cover this today, even though it's been all over the place, because, you know, it's kind of an easy target. I mean, you know, there's a video out there that I saw this morning from last year, LeBron James holding Malcolm X's autobiography, and a reporter asking him what's in it. And you can see him dancing. He's just holding the autobiography. He hasn't read any of it. But he uses these little techniques, like to stare you down. And he was like, Malcolm X had very serious things to say. He was a smart man. And, you know, a lot of what he's saying now really applies to today. And he just keeps going over, and he doesn't know what he's talking about. Meanwhile, you know, he says things like, you know, when China was cracking down on Hong Kong, he was defending China, and he was saying, I have an educated mind. Okay. Yeah, very educated. Okay, whatever. Meanwhile, yesterday, of course, can we put that tweet up? You know, he doxed the officer. He puts this tweet up. Says, you're next, accountability. Now, he deletes the tweet because he got an immediate storm all over him for doxing this guy. You know, we have a process in this country for episodes and incidents like this. And LeBron doesn't get to go do whatever he wants without repercussion. And at the very least, you know, he may not be legally culpable for putting out this guy's picture, but he certainly has a moral, you know, responsibility, and we can hold him to account when he does stuff like this. He's not above anything else. And so he puts this post out and basically says, you know, doxes the guy. And then, of course, it comes to light that the guy had a tough decision to make. This officer doesn't want to be in this position. He didn't go driving out there hoping to shoot somebody. But two young girls are having a fight, and one of them's got a knife, and she's going to stab the other one. And, you know, you're in a tough spot. What do? Do you get in the middle of it and get stabbed yourself and try and restrain somebody who's going wild with a knife? I mean, he doesn't know how old the girl is. She's a good-sized girl, and she's going nuts with the freaking knife trying to stab a girl who's holding a dog. And this guy had a tough decision, and, of course, leave it to opportunists like LeBron James to jump in there and do this hideous thing. So what he did, of course, was he deleted the tweet and then went on to say that he wasn't doxing him, but, you know, in light of what just happened, he had to put it out there, and it was all, you know, backtracking nonsense. And if he wasn't trying to dox him, why tweet the guy's picture? Why just say, why didn't he put up a picture of the young girl who got shot, and say, and use the word accountability. We want accountability for whoever did this, for the officer who did this. Why did he have to put the specific officer's picture? He could have put a badge of the officer, a picture of a badge of the officer's, police force that he worked on, and said, we want accountability. that would have had some blowback. But what he specifically did was he put the picture of the guy out there. He put the picture of the guy out there who actually did it. Really crappy thing to do. And of course that leads to the, the sycophants and the defenders of this kind of reprehensible stuff. And Max Kellerman, who I've lost a lot of respect. I've lost all respect for, basically. I used to sort of think he was okay in the fight game. I'm a boxing fan, as some of you may know. I boxed many years ago. And Max has been in the game, doing that commentary for a long time. He started getting political a few years back, and it was really discouraging and kind of basically shut me down to being interested in what he's saying. But here he is out there just in full-on, sycophant mode, defending LeBron James, calling people who don't get it low IQ people. Now, let me say this. People have said a lot about me, but they probably haven't said that I'm low IQ, because that would be wrong. And I know exactly what he was doing. And Max can jump around and do ad hominem attacks, sleight of hand ad hominem attacks on people. But smart people know exactly what LeBron James was doing here. And they know exactly what Max Kellerman is doing as well. Max has found a little niche getting involved in politics here, by being a leftist in a lefty organization, ESPN, which is owned by another lefty organization, Disney, which has a strong business relationship with China. And so, he's in his comfort zone, and there's no recourse whatsoever for Max for him to defend China LeBron, while he's working at China Disney. That's exactly what's happening here. So LeBron is despicable, and he's already shown that. I'm going to go out. I'm going to say this. I think LeBron is. I've been thinking about this kind of a lot lately. I think the biggest problem we face in this country are liberal women, specifically suburban liberal women. And they have a lot of influence, and I think LeBron is heavily influenced by liberal women. I think LeBron, who grew up basically grew up without a father, needs a strong man in his life, somebody who's gonna give him some guidance. He's too strong a personality himself now. That ship has probably sailed, but his he's just lost. And I think that if he had a man around him growing up, he wouldn't be the way he is, trying to please people the way he does. And he's really moved into a really bad place right now in the American political spectrum, and as a result, not just because of him, but also because of the NBA's acquiescence to the despicable BLM organization. NBA ratings are down, sports viewership is way down, and I think that trend continues until they cry uncle, by the way. I think it's going to continue because I don't know, it's this weird thing where, like, I love the NBA. I used to be a season ticket holder. I don't want to participate in, watch teams who think, say terrible things about me. They don't know a thing about me. For those of you who've seen the video, where I walked up to the guy. It's on the pin to the top of my Twitter page. On Twitter alone, has been viewed 3.2 million times. I walked up to an Antifa guy in a hot situation to try and calm it down, and the guy says, "I want you dead." And I go, "Why?" He goes, "You're a racist." I'm like, you don't know a thing about me. And I have that same exact reaction to outfits like the NBA who want me to bow my knee to their ethos and to their authoritarian alliance with BLM. Nah, I'm not interested. And there are a lot of people like me who feel that way, just based on an immutable character. I didn't ask to be born with the color of my skin, and it doesn't reflect a thing about what I think. And anyway, so I just think that the NBA is in trouble. I think LeBron is a big part of it, and getting getting knocked around on social media couldn't please me more, and it couldn't happen to a worse person. So I'm glad it's happening. Okay, moving on. Let's talk a little bit about the Biden taxes. Do you have something on that, Mario? Let's go ahead and see if we can find something on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. I'm sure there's something there. So Joe Biden introduced his tax proposal, his tax plan, and there are a number of things in there. But the thing that stands out, the one that a lot of people have grabbed onto, is the very high capital gains tax. Go to the news. Don't do that. Hold on. No. Don't go there. Capital here is so. Let's go ahead and start that one. Okay. Yeah. So stocks. This is the headline in the Wall Street Journal. Stocks fall on worries about capital gains taxes, and the numbers are, if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to go ahead and take a quick look here. The numbers on it are Biden is going to increase the capital gains tax, and that's for those of you who don't know, the capital gains tax is the tax that you pay when you sell an asset that's appreciated. So if you sell a house or jewelry or a painting or some real estate stocks, and there's appreciation, you pay a tax. And you don't just pay a tax in many U.S. states to the federal government, but you also pay it to state governments as well. And I'm just trying to pull up the numbers here. I don't see it. It's not readily available. Biden is planning a capital gains tax increase to as high as 39.6% on the wealthiest Americans, an increase from the current 20%. And this amount, this 39.6, he's basically doubling the capital gains tax for many people. And in places like California, that means that the tax on the appreciation of an asset that you've invested in, that you've held, and for a certain period of time, taken risk with, the taxes for some people will be as high as 56% on appreciation. 56%. And, you can't just, I don't care what your politics are. I don't care where you are in the political spectrum. You have to realize that that's going to have an impact, a negative impact on the economy. Federal government doesn't use money efficiently. It doesn't have the same economic impact because they don't really produce much of value. Maybe I'll spend a day going over, or maybe what we'll do, Mario, is let's plan on doing some John Dennis principles of economics, some of the things that I look at and I think about. Okay, thanks, Mario. And governments, if governments did things that we wanted them to do, if we placed value on the services that they propose to us, they wouldn't have to force us to pay for it. No one's forcing you to pay for your mobile phone. You pay for your mobile phone because you want it. You buy the things that you want with your money, and there's value in the companies that make them because they have found a way to get your interest. And so, one second, I got to move over to this. So, in any event, so when money goes through the government, so here's another way of thinking about it. If the government could create riches by taking money, then why don't we give all of our money to the government and let them just sit back and let them make us rich? But that's not how it works. That means when you take money out of the hands of the private sector and out of the hands of the individuals, it's going to have an impact on the broader economy. And there's going to be a consequence for this, and you see it already today. One day on the stock market does not make, doesn't make one. Hold on a second. It doesn't, have one impact. It's not just one thing. I don't see any comments here, by the way. If you have the comment, repost it, Mario. And hold on one second. So obviously it's going to have an impact. Let me me see. Just check his before you sports and keep saying. Oh, okay. I'll talk about the election stolen in a minute. Thanks, Peter, for the question. So this is going to obviously have a negative impact. You see it already in the stock market, but it's going to have a long-term drag on the economy. And I'd say in particular, you'll see it's going to have a weird impact on real estate. A lot of people have equity built up in their houses. It's what's become stream volume that you're watching. Okay, I already did that, but let's try this. Okay, is that better? So we're going to have it's going to have a big impact on real estate. It may, in some weird ways, drive up the prices of certain commercial real estate, because what's going to happen is it's going to create an enormous incentive for people to defer taxes. I don't know if people aren't in commercial real estate or don't understand this. You can actually defer taxes. If you sell a property that you have some equity in, you can buy another property of equal or greater value with the same amount of equity and the same amount or more of a loan, and defer those taxes. In other words, not pay those taxes. So you're going to see a lot of people interested in selling their properties and then buying another property, and where they're maybe not even going to make as much money, but they're going to be able to defer the taxes. And so, ironically, at least from the real estate side, this is going to most likely deprive the government of revenue. Tax revenue from capital gains is going to go down because people are going to find ways of avoiding to pay capital gains taxes. You watch what happens here. It's going to actually have a negative impact. And it's completely unnecessary. And here's an idea that I floated. And I don't know if I was the first one. I feel like I was the first one to say this, but now I'm hearing other people say it. So I'm going to take some level of authorship on this particular idea. But we're in a unique position in the world because we have the dollar is the world's reserve currency. Happy to talk about that another time. If you're interested, send me a message on one of our various social media platforms, and I'm happy to answer this. But because of Bretton Woods and we are the world's reserve currency, we have we can inflate our money supply with some impunity. It's been since 1944, 45. I think Bretton Woods actually started just prior to the end of World War II. It certainly was in effect by 1946. And so, it's been going on for a long time now. That's over 80 years. And we are, no, it's just under 80 years. But I mean, we're still the world's reserve currency, which means we get to export a lot of our inflation, and we can send, we can actually inflate our money supply and run up debt like we have right now. We're at $30 trillion in federal debt, an amount we can never pay off. I mean, government's never going to pay off that money. We're never going to be able to pay off that money. It's insane to think so. But if we're going to have this Bretton Woods system, why have an income tax at all? Why not just don't tax anybody? Just let the federal government spend what it's going to spend and sell bonds and let the debt pile up to infinity. Just keep piling it on, and at least and then get rid of the incredibly invasive, probably a really unconstitutional income tax and IRS enforcement system, and then just use inflation to pay for our bills. And we'll have to, businesses will be able to account for it. They'll be able to, over some period of time, figure out how to work those calculations into their business metrics so that it works. But that, I think, is a better system than what we have now. Now, some people will say, and they'd be right, that inflation hurts the poor, disproportionately than it hurts the rich, to which I'd say, that's precisely right. But what do you think you're doing it now by doing a half job at it? We have inflation right now. The CPI is, I'm sorry, just not a fair measure. It doesn't make any sense. Prices have gone up much faster than what CPI says. And we are hurting the poor as it is. for this trillion and change, $1.5 trillion, 1.3 trillion that we get out of income taxes and capital gains taxes, why not just get rid of the whole income tax system, and find another way of helping the poor, but get rid of the income tax system and then just spend the money based on inflation. Of course, that wouldn't fly because people want to give the people who have protected interests in Washington, D.C. want to give the illusion that the system has some level of credibility to it, which of course it does not. But anyway, that's where we're at right now. We're in really kind of silly land right now with the amount of debt we have, and this tax plan isn't really what matters. By the way, what really does matter, and this is what you should always watch, forget about what they tax. Look at how much they spend. That's the key. The key is the spending. The more they spend, that's in a direct inverse relationship to how free you are, how much liberty you have. And that's what you really need to watch. Okay, moving on. Last topic here. So this came up today because a guy I've known for a long time, been doing business with him for a long time. He told me this story, or at least he told me the episode that happened. And then it was so painful to him and so uncomfortable to watch that I really put it out of my mind. And then about a month ago, we were talking, and I said, "How you doing?" And he goes, "Yeah, well, I'm still dealing with the loss," and da-da. And I'm like, and then he reminded me of what happened, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, it was so rough for me, I kind of put it out of my mind. And this guy lost his son. His son, is in his early 40s, maybe late 30s, and he lost his son. And I could tell the way this guy who I know, who I've been doing business with for a long time, was talking. I could tell there was something. It was like something bad happened to the son. And so a mutual friend who introduced me to this fellow, reached out to him recently and got the full story. And we come to find out that the son had some injuries and car accidents and some work injuries. And he was sort of, every time he seemed to get over, he would get addicted to opioids. He'd get over the addiction, and then he'd have another injury would come up, and he'd get addicted again. And he was living in some place, and his dad hadn't heard from him for a while. He had a roommate. Roommate hadn't seen him, but the roommate had been traveling. So they went and they knocked on this guy who I did business with, knocked on his son's door, pushed it open, and his son had been dead for like 3 days. Really bad thing, and it was a fentanyl overdose. And, this is a story that is playing out in households all over America. Homes and families all over America are getting crushed by this fentanyl problem. A lot of people are talking about it. Scott Adams talks about it. People, this has impacted celebrities. People don't realize that Prince, when they found him, he died of a fentanyl overdose. He had been dealing with pain and started, going off-label, getting stuff off the street to deal with pain. And they're lacing a lot of opioids today, street opioids, heroin, and other opioids, with fentanyl. And fentanyl is very explosive. It's potent. And when you have a street drug, they're not using, the precise measurements that you might find in some, pharmaceutical conglomerate. They're street guys. And not only that, but, people have different tolerances, even if they were being accurate with the amounts they're putting into these drugs. And fentanyl is a dangerous thing. Prince died of it. A ton of people have died of it. And we're up to now. Do we have the number on that? Can you put that up? I mean, the last I checked, in the United States, I think there were 50,000 deaths. What is this one? Is this the one? No, that's just California. So, I mean, we have like 50,000 deaths a year from fentanyl. That's more people than are killed in automobile accidents. It's hit California especially hard. In San Francisco last year, overdose deaths were up 60%. We had way more overdose deaths in San Francisco than we had COVID deaths. I think that might be even true nationally. And it's no, maybe not. Maybe not. But it's a big number, and it's growing really fast. 60% more overdoses, almost exclusively caused by fentanyl. And fentanyl is made in China, and they know who's producing it. They know where it's coming from, and it's killing Americans. And effectively, China allowing this to happen, knowing about it, doing nothing, means that China is killing Americans. And just so you know, read a couple of books, read a book or two on how China does business. When you do business, you basically have someone in government who's your sponsor when you get to a certain size, and certainly the person who's doing this business has someone in the government who's benefiting financially from this business. So the Chinese government, members of the Chinese Communist Party, are benefiting, profiting from fentanyl coming into the United States. It's targeting Americans. And, I'm not a drug war guy. I think they should be legal. And maybe if fentanyl was legal, we would have more precise measurements and more caution taken to its distribution and sales. But fentanyl is kind of a game changer. Again, I still haven't changed my position. I'm still not a drug warrior. But what is certainly true is that China is shipping poison into the United States that's addicting people and killing them. And they have no compunction about that whatsoever. It's absolutely happening. And we are, basically have a target on our backs from the Chinese. And if if you're not aware of this, you should be now, that this is a ruthlessness against us. It seems like almost all the energy coming out of China towards the United States is extraordinarily negative. All of it, very negative. We have to, you have people like LeBron James, going back to him, who have to say what the Chinese want him to, or he's in trouble. We have, we have our manufacturing base over there, our intellectual property going over there and stolen regularly, repeatedly, with no consequence. No compunction. They just do it, and they finance a lot of these social justice warriors. Are financed by money from them. This is a very serious situation. I want you to imagine this. Imagine if we have we have pharmaceutical companies, we have chemical companies, we have military, bioweapons researchers, bioweapons contractors. Imagine if that conglomeration, that industrial complex, came up with a designer drug that genetically targeted Chinese for addiction and death. And then we took that product and we shipped it into China, and people started dying en masse in China from this. And that's exactly what's happening right now. Imagine if the United States did that. What would be the reaction from the world? What would be the reaction from China? And right now, we have such a dearth of leadership on this. I mean, Donald Trump brought it up. He could have done more. But Joe Biden, whose son who's suffered from addiction, who he tried to get off of drugs. Joe Biden doesn't say a word, doesn't lift a finger. Nancy Pelosi, you think she's going to say something about this problem? This problem is staring us in the face, and we're not talking about it. So we got to wake up to this problem, and it's going to touch all of us. This is as close as it's come. I knew this gentleman's son. We talked on the phone. He was also part of this gentleman's business for some time. So in effect, indirectly, we did a little business together. So I knew this person. Now I know somebody who's actually died. All of you at some point are going to know somebody who has died from fentanyl. It's coming. And what are you going to do then? How much longer is this going to go on before this matter gets addressed? They're shipping poison into our country that's addicting and ultimately killing Americans by the tens of thousands every single year. It has got to get addressed. We've got to deal with this issue because it's just unsustainable. The spine of America and American politicians is going to be challenged by this. And it's going to be could end up being very disruptive for the whole world economy unless we address this matter. And who knows? Maybe somebody's coming up with a retaliatory drug. Who knows? I would hate to see that kind of escalation happen, but it wouldn't surprise me if ultimately that's where this all went. So, anyways, hate to end the day and the week for that matter on a downer note, but it is something that we're going to have to continue talking about because it's got to be addressed. And I root for China to do well. The Chinese people, love them, wonderful people. I even root for the Chinese government to come around. But the truth is, they've got a different culture. It's a much more hierarchical, culture, and it is something I wish they would understand that by opening up things from a liberalizing civil liberties and freedom of speech, it'll actually benefit everybody there in the long run in a much more profound way than I think they can ever really understand. But until they get that, we have to stand back and look at what's happening now and decide what are we going to do moving forward and how are we going to address this issue. So anyway, again, just wrapping up on this unfortunate note, please enjoy yourselves. Have a great weekend. We'll have some more content coming up. We're going to film some other segments here. And next week's going to be a busy week as well. I'll keep you updated on that Newsmax appearance I'm going to do. And if you wouldn't mind, please follow us on YouTube at John Dennis Report. Same on Facebook, John Dennis Report. On Twitter and on Instagram, it's the same. It's at Real John Dennis. So at Real John Dennis on Twitter and Instagram, and John Dennis Report on YouTube and Facebook. Please follow us there, so that you can get updated on our new content. And again, have a great weekend, and let's give some thought to these topics we've talked about today, particularly the fentanyl thing, and come back and discuss it in the future. And feel free to send me your questions. Anything you're interested in discussing, I'm happy to bring up. Have a great weekend.